Today we'll be looking at problems that involve two variables like we have on the board, inequalities of two variables x and y. So we want to find solution to this type of inequality. Now how do we go about it? How do we go about problems like this? We have x and y. The ones we've been doing as just x, just one variable, which makes it very easy for us to do. Now if we now have two variables, it becomes a problem a little, but it's not really a problem. But I'm going to introduce you to certain things before we go deep into this. Now let's say we want to represent this on a graph. We'll use this approach, something we'll later use here. I want to show you certain things here. Let's say we're told to represent this on a graph, x greater than 0. No, let me use 5. Y less than or equals to minus 6. X less than or equals to minus 4. Okay, let me say minus 1. X less than or equals to minus 1. Then this y greater than, okay, let me say y greater than 2. Okay, so let's say we want to represent this on the graph. Let's take this x first. Now the solution of that x greater than 5, x greater than 5, you draw your graph, y-axis and x-axis. Now this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. Now you make sure there is 5 on the graph. So let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So we are interested in x. Now if it is ordinary greater than or ordinary less than, we use dotted lines. I'll tell you what that means. And if you are using greater than or equals to or less than or equals to, you use continuous line. Use a continuous line for greater than or equals to or less than or equals to. But if you are using ordinary greater than or ordinary less than, you use dotted lines. Now this is ordinary greater than. So what you will do is you draw dotted line passing through x is 5. This is 5. So x is 5. You draw a dotted line passing through it. So dotted line passing through x is 5. Then you now see it is greater than 5. So that means we are interested in all the values of x greater than 5. So that means x can be 6, x can be 7, x can be 8, and so on and so forth. So what you do in this type of graphical representation is that you shade the part that cannot be equals to x. So the part that cannot be equals to x is this part. So that means the solution is somewhere here. That's x greater than 5. Please, this knowledge, as basic as it is very, very important. Very, very important. Now let's look at another one. Let's say we have y less than or equals to minus 6. So we have the y-axis, we have the x-axis. Now this is positive y, negative y. I explained that in one of our videos under inequality. Positive y, negative y, positive x, negative x. So this is the negative part of y. So you represent. So this is minus 6, minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1. I'm not really scaling this. I just want to show you something. So this is less than or equals to. So that means you draw a continuous line passing through minus 6. You draw a continuous line passing through minus 6. But the answer is less than or equals to minus 6. So that means y can be minus 7. It can be minus 8. It can be minus 9. But it can never be all these values on top. So you shade those parts. So that means the solution is somewhere here. That's y less than or equals to minus 6. Okay, let's do this number 3. For x less than or equals to minus 3, minus 1. So you make sure there is x minus 1. So let's say this minus 1. X-axis minus 2, minus 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is y-axis and this is x-axis. So for x less than or equals to -1, it is less than or equals to, so you draw a continuous line passing through that -1, a continuous line, because if it is ordinary greater than or ordinary less than, you use dotted lines. But if it is greater than or equals to or less than or equals to, or like this, you draw a continuous line passing through that number. So this is x, so it will cut the x-axis. So since it is less than or equals to -1, so that means it can be -1, it can be -2, it can be -3, but it can never be 0. It can never be any of these values. So you shade that part. So that means x is less than or equals to -1. So basically we are going to be using this knowledge for this. Now if you want to do this, you would try and draw a straight line. And how do you draw a straight line? Once you have 2 points, 2 points is sufficient for you to be able to draw a straight line. So now you assume this were to be an equation. Assume it were an equation. That's the first step in representing this, finding solution to this. You assume it were an equation. So if you assume it were an equation, that means this is going to be 2x plus 3y plus 6 is equals to 0. So that's the first step. You assume it were an equation. Then the next step, okay, the next step is to make y the subject. So if you make y the subject, we have 3y is equals to, this goes there, we have -2x, this goes there, we have -6. So we now divide both sides by 3. So we divide both sides by 3, divide all through by 3, all through by 3. So that means y is -2 over 3x minus 3 is 6, that's 2. So this is what we'll use. So you now find y when x is 0. You first find y when x is 0, then you now find x when y is 0. So let's use the first condition. Find y when x is 0. So find y when x is 0. That means anywhere we see x, we put 0. So this is -2 over 3 times 0 minus 2. So this is y is equals to -2 over 3 times 0, that's 0, minus 2. And 0 minus 2 is -2. So that means when x, so let's represent this. When x is 0, y is -2. So this is the first case. We look for y when x is 0. Then you look for x now. Find x when y is equals to 0. Find x when y is equals to 0. So if we do that, that means anywhere we see y now, this is the equation we are using. Anywhere we see y, we now replace it with 0. So this is 0 is equals to -2 over 3x minus 2. Now we are looking for x. So let's bring this to this side. So if we bring it to this side, it becomes positive is equals to -2. Now we can cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, this multiplies this and this multiplies this. So we have 2x is equals to 3 times -2, that's -6. Then if we divide both sides by 2 to find x, so that means x equals to -3. So if we represent this, it means when x is -3, y is equals to 0. So it is these 2 points, that we have obtained, this point 1 and point 2, that we are going to use to plot the graph. So how do we plot this graph? Like normal graph, that's how we plot it. You have x and y coordinates, and you have to make sure that this values are on that graph. If you are using a normal graph, you would see that very well. So let's say let's just improvise. We have y axis, we have x axis. This is positive y, positive x, negative y. So now from here, let's just use arbitrary scale. 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. So this is 0, this is 1 2 3 4. That's positive y, and this is 1 2 3 4, positive x, and this is -1 -2 -3 -4, negative y, and this is -1 -2 -3 -4, negative x. Now what I did, I sized the value and I noticed that it is not more than what I'm going to have. I don't have a bigger value. I would have used a different scale. Now let's look for this point. Now this means when x is 0, y is -2. When x is 0, y is -2. So this is a point. When x is 0, y is -2. And when x is -3, y is 0. When x is -3, so this is x is -3, y is 0. Now how do we join this point? You now check the sign. It is greater than sign, ordinary greater than, and I mentioned earlier that if you have ordinary greater than or ordinary less than, you use dotted lines. But if it is greater than or equals to or less than or equals to, you use continuous line. So this is greater than, so you are using dotted lines. Dotted lines is what we are using. Dotted lines. So now this solution is not complete. It's not complete because we need to shade some parts. Now how do we know which part to shade? It is the sign that will also let us know. Now if it is greater means it is above the line. If it is less, that means it is below the line. So because in this question it is greater than 0, so that means we are interested in part of the answers that are above the line. So we are not interested in this part. So that means the solution to this inequality lies above this line. So that means the solution lies above the unshaded part. So we write the inequality above that line. So we have 2x plus 3y plus 6 greater than 0. Now we'll look at another question. We'll look at another question very fast. I want to rub this off. So I expect you to go over this particular video and just understand it.